So today we have Paul Levering. He's a serial entrepreneur, founder of a telecom hardware distributor and a voice over IP telephone company with a successful exit in 2012. Paul is now a partner at Blue Hat Mechanical, a commercial HVAC and refrigeration service company in Raleigh, North Carolina. Paul is also certified as a professional EOS implementer, helping businesses implement the Entrepreneurial Operating System described in the book Traction. And with that, I'd like to present to you Paul Levering.
Thanks, Wayne. All right, I'm going to show my screen. So appreciate the introduction. And there's a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. I've heard that to have a good presentation, you need to tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them in the end. So I'm going to start with a little bit of that, with beginning with the end in mind. So we're going to start at the finish line here. And what I intend for today is for you guys to get takeaway value, which means I've got documents and tools so you can walk away from this with things that you can implement immediately. I want to convey that I've used EOS successfully. I've had a couple of businesses and used bits and pieces of it earlier, but when I found the book and implemented it in Blue Hat, over the past 3 years, we've doubled revenues. I want you to get an understanding of the 6 key components of business that EOS talks about. And I want you to get the 5 foundational tools that we're going to talk about how to strengthen each one of those components. So if you do nothing else, use the level 10 meeting agenda with the other 4 tools, and we're going to talk about all these: SCORECARD, ROCKS, accountability chart, and VTO, that's the Vision Traction Organizer. So with that, I want to start out by saying that today I am grateful. I'm getting to do what I love, working with the best people, making a difference in their lives. And along with that, I have the time to pursue other passions just all year long. It's not seasonal for me. And it hasn't always been this way. Through running 3 businesses of my own, I've experienced the part where I often felt like, even though I was the business owner, I really just had a crappy job. And it's what Michael Gerber talks about in his E-Myth book. I thought I was an entrepreneur, but all I did was create a job with the worst job description possible, which is all the risks and seemingly very little reward. I was often frustrated, angry. I felt like I'd be better off working for somebody else sometimes, and that's pretty depressing. So I went into Blue Hat Mechanical with a partner. In that picture there, my partner is in the white shirt to my right. And this was a partner I never thought we'd have a disagreement. I realize how crazy that sounds, but at the time and his personality, I thought it was going to be different. But we did have some serious disagreements, and for common reasons. I mean, we had different management styles. We each tried to do many different jobs in the business, often stepping on each other's toes, all in an effort to try to get things done. But we were both partners that each of us wanted to be, quote unquote, the leader. So as the business grew, the problems only got worse. And more than once, one of us discussed leaving the business. So the bottom line is I found a way out of that situation, and now I've created a life where I'm helping others to do the same thing, to find out a way out as well. So how did I do it? So as a member of a business group called EO, it's the Entrepreneurs Organization, I was introduced to a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. There are thousands of business books out there, of course, and hundreds of operating systems. I tried several. But EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System described in the book, is the simplest, most practical one I've ever seen. You can set it up for yourself, or you can hire a professional implementer to give you some leverage. But in this webinar, I wanted to talk through the concept of the 6 key components of business and the 5 foundational tools of EOS that you can start using today. So with that, as I mentioned, since I'm able to create what I wanted out of my business, my obsession and my passion now, and what gives me energy, is helping other people do the same thing. So over the years, I've noticed 2 types of business people in the world. There were people that were getting everything they wanted out of their business, and they were happy. Then there were the people that weren't. The ones that were getting what they wanted, they seemed peaceful and happy, and the ones that weren't seemed very frustrated. So there's 5 frustrations I see. The first frustration is just a lack of control. The frustrated ones, the ones that aren't getting everything they want from their business, they just feel out of control. They don't feel like they're controlling their business. They feel like their business is controlling them. The second frustration is profit and the lack thereof. In other words, they're not just making the kind of money they want to make. The third frustration is people. And the business owners tend to be frustrated about their people, their employees, their customers, their vendors, their partners. They just don't seem to listen. The fourth frustration is hitting the ceiling. So they tend to be frustrated because they want something else, right? So some of you may want to grow rapidly. Some of you may just want to stabilize the business. Some of you are happy with where you are in terms of the size of your business, but you just want to maximize profit. Some of you want to get a profit. And some of you want peace of mind, more balance in your life. So the bottom line, hitting the ceiling, is you're wanting to get something, that thing, something different, but you're hitting the ceiling and you can't figure out how to break through. And the fifth thing they tend to be frustrated about is that nothing's working. They're trying all this stuff, they're reading all the books. Every month, a business owner brings back a new book to their people and make everybody read it. Becomes a flavor of the month kind of company, but nothing's working. So these are the frustrations, and over the years, I've had every single one of them. Like I said, I tried a few different systems, but when I found the book Traction and EOS, it was like someone flipped on the light and I could see my way out. So I'm going to jump into the model now, and I want you to think about your business. And when I talk about looking at your business in a whole new way, the mechanism that EOS discovered is that to the degree you strengthen these 6 key components in your business, everything just has a way of falling in place. So said another way, we leaders and owners and entrepreneurs who tend to wrestle with 100 things simultaneously. Somebody described it to me one time as, running through a hailstorm, and the hail is just pelting you in the face, and you're just trying to move forward. But that's just business. There's a lot going on. But the irony is, to the degree that you focus on just these 6 components and strengthen these 6 components, those 100 things will just have a miraculous way of falling into place. So I'll share what I mean now. The first of the 6 key components is what we call the vision component. And strengthening that vision component is simply getting everyone in your organization 100% on the same page with exactly where you're going and how you're going to get there. And that's vision. The second key component is the people component. Simply put, you can't accomplish a great vision without having great people. The discovery here is the definition of great is actually different. If we've got 20 different businesses on the line listening to this right now, there's going to be 20 different definitions of what great means, what a great person means to that business. So your business has a very specific definition, and I want to help define that for you today. The third key component is the data component. Now, this is cutting through all the subjectives, all the personalities, all the egos and opinions, and boiling your organization down to good, hard data. And I love data. It's my favorite component. There's just a handful of numbers that give you a pulse on your business at any given time. The fourth key component is issues. In strengthening this component, it's building the muscle of solving problems, tackling issues, setting them up and knocking them down at every level in the organization. So it's amazing what an epidemic it is and how weak this component is in most organizations that I see. And the bottom line is that a company can only be as successful to the degree that it can solve its own issues. The fifth key component is the process component. And the process component is where you dial your business model in. It's your best practices. It's where you identify the handful of core processes that make up your business, your way of doing business, and getting everybody following it, doing it your way, so that you have consistency and scalability in your organization. And this just makes for ease of management, peace, and actually better profitability. And the sixth and final component is traction. So that's where we bring the vision down to the ground and we execute, bringing discipline and accountability to the organization. So the sad thing is most visions, great visions and great intentions go unrealized because companies just can't bring traction into an organization. And there's a saying that vision without traction is just hallucination. So with this understanding of the overall model, I'm going to share with you exactly how to strengthen each one of these 6 components. We'll take it one at a time, and I'll show you 2 disciplines that help you strengthen each component. And everything I'm going to share with you, you can literally start implementing it today. The tools you need are in the documents there attached to the webinar, or shoot me an email, I'll send them to you. There's other tools as well that can help, but this is all actionable stuff that you can start using today. So here's where I kind of open the fire hose. There's a lot of information to be shared, and I'm going to move kind of quickly through the model. So let's take the vision component to start with. The first discipline of vision is what we call answering the 8 questions. So to the degree you and your leadership team can answer these 8 questions and be 100% on the same page with the answers to them, you can have a clear vision to take to the rest of the organization. So what are the 8 questions? You don't have to write these all down because they're in the Vision Traction Organizer, that VTO document that you have, and we're going to see that next. But the 8 questions are, number 1, what are your core values? Number 2, what's the core focus of your business? Number 3, what's the 10-year target? Number 4, what's the marketing strategy? Number 5, what's the 3-year picture? What's the 1-year plan? What are the quarterly rocks? And number 8, what are your issues? So the interesting discovery here is that most of the time, it's not that a company doesn't have a vision, it's just that people don't agree on the vision. So in other words, if I took your leadership team, each one of them individually, took them into a room, asked them for the answers to these 8 questions, I'm probably going to get different answers from every leader on the leadership team. And it's important that everybody's rowing in the same direction and has the same answers. So there's real magic and real power is when everybody's 100% on the same page. And the tool for keeping track of the answers to these 8 questions, so as I mentioned, this is where you're going and how you're going to get there. So the tool to keep track of the answers to these 8 questions is the Vision Traction Organizer, or the VTO. This is the way you can document all the answers and keep them handy for reference. There's a saying that people don't need to be taught as much as they need to be reminded. So it's great to have all of these in one place so you can remind your people over and over again. Excuse me. So at the top, we start out with core values. So everybody knows about core values. We've been hearing about them for decades. Every MBA program on earth teaches step 1, discover your core values. So I know this has been abused, it's worn, it's trite, but the perceived value has diminished greatly, but it's as powerful as ever. And I want to try to reinvigorate your understanding of how powerful core values are, because they define who you are at your core. They're pretty much the culture or personality of your business. And it's important to know what it is, to have it and know what it is. So I want to do a quick exercise right now, because we're going to use these a couple slides from now. But think of your best employee. And this is work-related, best functioning employee you have. Write down the 3 things that you like about them the most. So just 3 things, just real briefly. Are they hardworking? Are they a self-starter? Are they fun? Are they professional? Are they dependable? So pretty much just 3 things that if you had 100 people just like them, your business would go to the moon. And we're going to use those in just a minute. The next section is core focus. So core focus is like the sweet spot on a golf club. In other words, the face of the club, the entire face of the club is large, but the sweet spot is very small. When you hit the ball in the sweet spot, the ball goes further, faster, straighter. When you operate in your business in the core focus, that sweet spot, you gain the same power. So core focus is made up of purpose, cause, passion, and your niche. So purpose, cause, or passion pretty much is just your why. You can pick one of those words, purpose, cause, passion, whatever means the most to you. But this is your why. In other words, why you exist as an organization. And it's an emotional thing. There's no logic in it. Why do you get out of bed every morning? Why do you bother coming in the office? What gets your blood pumping? The way I think about it is, what about my business gives me energy when I think about it? If I'm tired and I start thinking about this part of my business, why am I there? So for example, at Blue Hat Mechanical, our passion in this section is to show our customers what great service looks like. So it's just a few words. It's very simple. And it's to show our customers what great service looks like. And what that means to us is that we want to ruin all customers for all of our competitors. In other words, nobody's going to do it as well as us. And when they go to a competitor, it's just not, they're not going to get as good service as they got from us. So that's what that means to us. And that gives us a little bit of emotion. The niche is your what. Okay, so the niche is exactly what do you do better than anyone else? What's your superior skill as an organization? At Blue Hat Mechanical, we maintain, repair, replace commercial HVAC and refrigeration equipment. Again, very simple, very straightforward. And what your core focus does for you is you use it as a filter, and it helps you avoid shiny stuff. It helps you avoid distractions. So when a new opportunity comes along, test it with the core focus filter. We had, in the companies we bought, we had some residential customers in there, and we developed our core focus to say, you know, our niche is that we do commercial. So when another residential opportunity came along, we put it through our core focus filter, and we said, well, you know, we do commercial. That's just a shiny object and a distraction. Let's stay focused. So the third question is, what's your 10-year target? And 10-year target comes from Jim Collins' Good to Great. What's your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal, right? So what are you working towards? What are you driving towards? 10-year target is kind of like pointing to a mountaintop and saying, that's where we're going. So that illustration very clearly points out to people, oh, you know, we're going that way. That's what you mean by we're going to achieve great things. It gets everybody aligned very quickly. And you can use a revenue number or a profit number, something like that. Something big, doable, and inspiring. At the bottom, the fourth question is marketing strategy. So again, this tries to be very simple. It's not a 100-page marketing plan. It's just a very simple illustration of what's your marketing strategy. The four things in marketing strategy are what's your target market, what are your three uniques, what's your proven process, and what's your guarantee. In target market, you want to be very clear about who is your ideal customer. You want to know the demographic, geographic, and psychographic information about them. In other words, who are they, where are they, and what are they? And just agree what an ideal customer is, because we all have customers that are not ideal. And often not ideal customers, you're probably not serving them profitably. You're probably not meeting their needs exactly. So they might not be a great reference for you. So it's important to know who's your target market, who's your best customer, and who's not. So the second part of the marketing strategy is three uniques. And with three uniques, the idea is to agree on what three things that you are to your ideal customer, right? Three things that matter to them. So this has been called value proposition, differentiators, lots of other terminologies. But the idea is to agree on what those three things are that make you unique and different to your ideal customer. And the reason you pick three is that if you only pick one, someone else might have the same unique, and then it's not unique, right? So you get three uniques, make sure it matters to your customer, and then make sure that your target market is hearing those three uniques and that messaging everywhere they go. Your marketing, your emails, your website, your trucks, everywhere. Be consistent. And the last two parts of marketing strategy I'm going to hit kind of quickly, but proven process is creating a one-page visual of the proven way you take care of your customer from the first inception to the ongoing relationship forever. So if your salesperson is out there trying to sell a preventive maintenance agreement, for example, it would be really nice to show them a visual of step one is today, I'm giving you a proposal. Step two, or step one today, I'm going to do a site survey. Step two, I'm going to bring you a proposal. Step three, we're going to come for the initial tune-up and get you at the Blue Hat standards so that we can do your preventive maintenance easily from here on out. So seeing that visually helps the customer know what to expect from you, know what to expect when they sign that contract, what's going to happen next. Very comforting. And then the guarantee is coming up with a revolutionary promise or commitment or pledge to your customer, right? So pretty much this puts their mind at ease when you're doing business with a company like you. What's their biggest fear? And your job is to get the jump on that fear and alleviate it so they're more likely to say yes to your agreement. The fifth question, now we're going to move over to the right side of the document, excuse me, is a 3-year picture. So it's really simple. Again, not a 20-page business plan or anything. It's just a future date. So 3 years from now, so in that 3rd year, what's your revenue? What's your profit going to be that year? And what are the measurables, or what does it look like? And here we just want to list out 5 to 15 bullet points to paint a picture of what the organization looks like, what it'll feel like, all the different dimensions. And the reason it's called a picture is because it's supposed to be a visual, right? It's supposed to create an image in the mind's eye. What does the office look like? How big is it? How many customers do we have? How many employees? How many trucks? Just make sure that you can be as clear as you can about what that vision is. On to the next page, we get to the traction side, which is where the rubber meets the road, and we've got some goals and action items. Again, the 1-year plan, same exercise. 1 year from now, what's the future date? What's the revenue of that 12-month period? What's the profit? What are the measurables? And then outline some goals for the year. And this we just want to get 3 to 7 goals. Less is more. If you want to take on 23 objectives, it's too much. Ironically, the less you attempt to take on, the more you will accomplish. And believe it, it's true. Next is quarterly rocks. So quarterly rocks focuses even a little more clearly. And again, future date, this is a quarter from now, 3 months. What's the revenue for that quarter? What's the profit? What are the measurables? What are rocks for the quarters? And rocks are just prioritized tasks or projects to move you forward towards your annual goals, right? So you break those annual goals down a little bit and you assign who is responsible for that rock. So everybody has their top thing or top couple of things they're working on this quarter to accomplish the annual goals. And issues, last but not least, what are the obstacles, barriers, ideas, opportunities that you need to solve, discuss, or tackle to make the vision a reality? And the idea here is just to get all the issues out of your head so they don't occupy space and they don't occupy worry in your head. It's just good therapy. So you'll see how we solve them when we get to the issues component. So the other discipline and vision is shared by all. And shared by all just means now that you're on the same page with your leadership, you have the same answers to these 8 questions. You've got to communicate it to everybody in the organization. Everybody needs to see this same vision. And how do you do it? Well, you have to tell them, and you have to tell them often. There's a rule or there's a saying that says, until somebody hears something 7 times, they won't realize they've heard it for the first time. So if you have to tell somebody 3 times and you're a little frustrated, don't be frustrated. Just know you've got 4 more times to go. I've got 3 kids, so I know how that works. So the simple discipline here is to do a quarterly state of the company address. Every 90 days, close the quarter, you do a state of the company speech with all your people. You talk about as many of these 8 questions as you're comfortable talking about with your entire company. So on to the people component. And the first discipline on the people component is right people. So at this point, find the 3 core values that you wrote earlier about what you like best about your top employee. And we're going to use those in something called the People Analyzer. So the EOS core values, I'm going to give an example here. So you would write the core values across the top in the diagonal boxes. EOS core values are be humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing, and do what you say. So you write your core values across the top, write the names in the column on the left side, and then analyze or evaluate each person and how they meet that core value. And again, this is how you determine right person. What makes the right person means that they fit your culture. Sally Jones. Sally Jones is a great employee here. She is humbly confident. She grows or dies. She helps first. She does the right thing, and she does what she says she's going to do. Awesome. John Smith, not so much. We know John Smith needs some help, or maybe needs some help finding a different company that fits him better. George Wilson here, well, he's on the fence with everything. So how do you use this? Well, you've got to establish a bar, right? Kind of a bar that you want everybody to be above the bar. So what do we mean by the bar? So down there in the bottom, the bar, you want to establish some minimum. And the suggestion here is that if you have 5 core values, you set the bar at having 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses, right? So if you evaluate the employee and somewhere in there they've got 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses, then they're not an issue, right? And again, anything we do here is just to find issues in the company, because like we said, the company is only successful to the degree that it solves its issues. So here, John Smith is below the bar, he's an issue all the way across. George Wilson is below the bar, he's an issue. So we've got 2 people issues that we need to work on, do something about. The next step with people is right seats. So right seats means, are they in the right role? Are they in the right function for the company? And we determine that by creating an accountability chart. Now, an accountability chart looks a whole lot like an org chart, except we're going to add one special difference. So here, arguably in any company, whether it's a $1 million organization or $1 billion organization, you've got 3 primary functions: sales and marketing function, operations function, and finance function. Sometimes those split a little bit. You might have sales and marketing separate. You might have a couple different operations functions. But this is the basic layout of any accountability chart. Above those functions is an integrator. And we don't use titles like CEO or president or any ego-based titles like that. We just say that this person harmoniously integrates these seats. And in about 50% of the companies that we work with, there's a special person called a visionary. So the visionary and the integrator are 2 very different people. Often the visionary is the founder. Often the visionary is more emotional. Often the visionary is responsible for big sales relationships or big deals, big ideas. Sometimes the visionary has 20 ideas a week and maybe 1 is a good one. And it's the integrator's idea, it's the integrator's responsibility to determine that good one and put it in action, right? So the integrator is responsible for P&L, the business plan, things like that. A lot more logic-based. So once we do this, then we start adding names to the functions. And right below function name there's 5 lines. We clearly identify the 5 roles and responsibilities of that role, of that function. So then, to continue to evaluate our employees, GWC up there at top, we have to see if they GWC the position. And GWC means, do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? Get it means they understand it. Want it is, of course, desire. And there's several different types of capacity, ranging from brain capacity, knowledge, physical capacity, and time capacity as well. Do they have the time to do the job right? So going back to the people analyzer, we add get it, want it, capacity to do it. And the bar is, it's non-negotiable. They all have to be yes, right? The person's got to get it. They've got to want it. They've got to have the capacity. And if any of these is no, then boom, out pops, that's another issue to solve. So in your example, you can put 3 core values for your employee you like best, and then start putting some other employees' names in the account and people analyzer and see how they stack up. And that's your culture. Next component is the data component. And this is my favorite component. The discipline we use with the data component is a scorecard. And the scorecard is basically, the rule of thumb is 5 to 15 numbers, and it illustrates who owns the number. So when you're looking at your scorecard as a leadership team each week, if the number's off, you know exactly whose eyeballs to look into when the number doesn't match up. And so you have the first column is who's responsible. The second column is what the measurable is. The third column is a goal. And by goal, we don't mean aspirational goal, right? We don't mean shoot for the stars here. We want something that is expected, right? We reasonably expect to hit this number because, again, we're just looking for issues. If we don't hit that number, then it's an issue and we bring it down to the issues list. So some example of scorecard numbers: weekly revenue, cash balance, sales calls, sales meetings, proposals, closed business, customer satisfaction, accounts receivable, accounts payable, errors and mistakes, or in our case, callbacks. We track callbacks, utilization and capacity. So in addition to the scorecard, you want to have some measurables. And measurables, you give everybody in your organization a number. Everybody should have a number to hit. It's a daily number, a weekly number, but there's nothing more powerful and impactful in the way of giving people clear expectations than giving them a number to live up to, or giving them a number to hit. So at this point, we're halfway through the model. The rest goes a lot faster. We spend most of the time on the first half because you can't go to the second half of the model till the first three components are strong. Now, if you're talking about gaining traction, at this point, if you can picture it, if your vision component is strong, your people component is strong, you have good people giving you good information, good data, there's nowhere to hide in an organization like that. Issues just pop out. Things don't get hidden. So as a result, you're going to smoke out all the real issues and get you good at solving them. Now, the sixth component is issues, and the first discipline for strengthening the issues component is your issues list. And this is a real simple discipline. What you're going to have is you're going to carry a list of current issues. Every team in your organization needs to have an issues list. You get good at openly and honestly just admitting the issues, calling them out. I always tell my technicians, if you see something, say something. Right? If you see something, say something. Let's get it on the issues list. So that starts to build healthy, cohesive, and functional teams, learning that issues are okay. It's okay to mention them. So once we're starting to populate the list, we teach the issue-solving track known as IDS. And I have a lot of meetings where people like to talk, and discuss, but we need to move past that to a solution. So IDS is the issue-solving track, and it stands for Identify, Discuss, and Solve. So you start out and you identify. You want to make sure that you are talking about the core issue. Is this the real issue? Then we move to discuss. And a lot of times it's discuss. But the important thing is, as the leader should keep asking, okay, what's the to-do? You need to work to get a to-do. And the important thing to note here is that the integrator, the leader at the table, that integrator role that we saw in the accountability chart, the integrator makes the decision. So we don't advocate for democracy. We don't advocate rule by committee. So this is very powerful. The integrator takes the advice, puts it in their gut, and makes a decision. And that's how you move forward. You keep asking, what's the to-do here? That's your solution. That's how you solve. The next is process component. Most entrepreneurs don't like process. Process is so powerful, but it's so neglected. So every business has a handful of core processes, and just a handful. And to the degree that you can agree on what they are, the first discipline is to document them. So when we talk about documenting them, people have processes, whether they document them or not, these things are happening. It's a people process, HR, onboarding, training, marketing, how people find out about your company or your service, sales, how you take those people that found out about you and make them a customer, operations, accounting, customer retention. All these, there's probably a best practice, a best way to do it. Somebody needs to find it, document it, and we don't mean pages and pages of documentation. We mean it's the 20-80 rule. You document 20% of the steps that give you 80% of the results. And next, you have to make sure they're followed by everyone. You know, process documentation does no good if people don't use it. I can't tell you how many times in the past I've created fantastic documentation. People just don't use it. So EOS has ways to show you to get people to use your process. So the sixth and final component is traction. So there's two disciplines with traction, and we already talked about rocks, and rocks were the big quarterly tasks or projects that people are responsible for moving the company in the direction of the annual goals. And everyone in your organization should have rocks, at least one, 3 to 7 at most. The second discipline for traction is meetings. So, oh, meetings. A lot of people don't like meetings. I know Cameron Harold of 1-800-GOT-JUNK got a whole program out there, why meetings suck and how to get meetings not to suck. Well, I'm going to tell you, EOS has honed and refined and tested what I believe to be the perfect meeting. Now, I know that's said with some bravado maybe, but it's been tested and proven so many times. Every client follows this to the letter because you can't put a bullet in it. It's a time management tool, and it saves you 2 to 3 times the amount of time you invest in it. And it's called Level 10 Meeting. So this Level 10 meeting is a 90-minute meeting for your leadership team. You get together every 90 minutes. You start on time, end on time, but you start out with good news. It brings a human element to the meeting, and it's a great segue from working in the business to working on the business. Everybody goes around the table, shares one thing personal, one thing professional, and that's your segue. You then report on the 3 most important things to your business. So, and this is just reporting, just real quick. First, you review your scorecard, make sure all your scorecard numbers are on track. And when they aren't, when they don't meet the goal that you've set, the expectation that you've set, you bring it down to the issues list. Don't discuss it right then. And this is the discipline in this, but you're going to need to wait till the end, because at the end, we're going to prioritize our issues. We're going to see what that's like. So review your scorecard numbers, make sure they're all on track, bake right into the agenda. Review your rocks next. How are you doing on that quarterly rock? How are you doing on that quarterly task or project? And again, no discussion. It's just I'm off track or I'm on track. If you're on track, no need for discussion, further discussion. If you're off track, then it could be an issue. So we bring it down to the issues list. Then you share any people headlines. And people headlines are where you discuss anything to do with customers or employees. So you're all on the same page. You all get updated with what's going on with your people. So you've got to be talking about your people, making sure they're happy. Where are there any issues? And if there are issues, you drop it down to the issues list. After you're done reporting on these 3 things, you bring a little accountability to your life. And this is very powerful. It's called a to-do list. And this is a list of everything that anyone committed to do in last week's meeting. So there's some peer pressure here, but the point is, if you committed to do something in last week's Level 10 meeting, you're going to get called out on it today. And what we want to hear is that you've done it. So at this point, this creates some accountability, discipline, and traction. So after that, this is going to free up a whole hour in the meeting for you guys to tackle the top issues of the company. So once again, the issues list is baked right into the agenda. And here, pick 1, pick 2, and pick 3. So first, you prioritize the issues. You've got a whole list. Some of these issues were left over from last week's meeting. Some of the issues on the list might have come from this week's meeting when you reported your scorecard, rock review, and people headlines. Sometimes a to-do is even an issue. If somebody has a to-do, which means they were supposed to do that thing in 7 days, and it could get carried over to the next week and carried over to a 3rd week, and at that point, it's an issue. We bring it down to the issues list. Why aren't you doing what you say you're going to do? So you start with number 1. Sometimes you might only get 1 issue tackled in that 60 minutes, right? Because you're going to get to a solution. It may take all 60 minutes to solve 1 issue. That's fine. You're still going to go ahead and end the meeting. Sometimes you might get done with 10 issues. When we started this at Blue Hat, our 90-minute meeting would slide to hour 45, 2 hours sometimes. We just had so many issues. Well, turns out we just didn't compartmentalize those issues very well. But as we worked with it, we learned, and our 90-minute leadership team meeting started to turn into less than 90 minutes. We had maybe an hour meetings, and that was amazing. We'd get done early and we'd say, really? We don't have any issues? So that was a fantastic feeling. So at the end of the meeting, you conclude. And when you conclude, you recap the to-do list so everybody knows their to-dos, what they're supposed to get done in the next 7 days. Then you discuss any cascading messages. So the leadership team, there may be some unifying message to take to the rest of the organization. And then you rate the meeting. So you give it a score, 1 to 10. How did we do together? Did we stay on track? Did we not do too much discussion when we talked about scorecard or rock review? And did we end on time? And this gives you feedback at every meeting, so every meeting can get better. So that is the EOS model. I covered that really quickly. Covered the 6 key components there. Talked through some of the 5 foundational tools in the documents. We talked about the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, the accountability chart, rocks, the level 10 meeting, and the scorecard. And so that's the quickest I've ever packed it all together. So it's a lot to cover in a short time. But when I say this is the best thing I've ever done for my business, I do not mean that lightly. So with that, we can open it up for questions. And Wayne, I guess you can moderate the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I want to, remind everyone of if they have any questions. If you look at the right-hand side, there should be a little box labeled questions. If they have any, I'll give people a couple seconds there if they have any. But in the meantime, I do want to remind everyone that I will have a follow-up email. And in that email, we do have this recording. And I will make sure to get the PowerPoint over to you as well. And for those that were not able to see any of the handouts, there should be a module labeled handouts as well. You can either click on those and download those right away, but I'll also have those available for you in that follow-up email. And then any other materials that Paul would like to pass on to you all, I'll make sure to put it into it. All right, Paul, I'm not sure if we have any questions. Do you have any other words?
No, I keep my promise to keep that under an hour. I didn't know if I was going to do it, but like I said, that's a fire hose and a lot of information. But if, like, I want to go to the beginning and say, you know, if people do nothing else, let me see if I get to the first slides there. If people do nothing else, they can get real change in their business by using that level 10 meeting agenda, you know, sticking to the agenda, and you'll need those other 4 tools to run that agenda effectively. I started out self-implementing in my own business, so I read the book. Chapter 10 in the book kind of has a step-by-step process if you want to self-implement. So we started doing that at Blue Hat, and it revolved around the level 10, the weekly meeting agenda. It's hard sometimes to keep that weekly meeting to the 90 minutes. It's hard when people, sometimes they do their good news in the beginning, their personal good news and their business good news. Sometimes people like to go on and talk about good news, you know, it gives them a good feeling. But, you know, you do need to watch the time in that. It's 5 minutes for everybody to give their good news. But if you stick to that level 10 meeting agenda, and use the other 4 tools, have a scorecard, have rocks, have accountability chart, and fill out that vision traction organizer so you can communicate where you're going and how you're going to get there. That alone will create a change in your business.
Perfect. We do have one question that came in, and you can answer this if you like, but someone was just wondering how many employees Blue Hat has that you implement all this with.
Blue Hat has 16. Because we just hired more technicians. I believe we're at 16 now. And we've got 9 trucks on the road.
Awesome. And one question just came in. How many folks are on your leadership team?
The Blue Hat leadership team, we have 4.
All right.
The way you determine who's on your leadership team, and sometimes this question comes up, is basically department heads. So we have, you know, sales and marketing. We have operations leader, we have a finance leader, and we have the integrator. So that's the team of 4.
All right, perfect. I don't see any other questions. So if anyone else on the line does have any questions for us, you know, please reach out and then we'll try and get them answered.
Sure thing. And again, part of the EOS core values is help first. So you know, what I got out of this business. And the fact that, you know, it was kind of interesting to run an HVAC company. I had no experience prior to that, and my experience was telecom and technology. But coming into the HVAC business, there's a saying: don't work in your business, work on it. Coming into it, I couldn't work in it because I had never been an HVAC technician. So all I could do is work on it. So it gave me a great opportunity to implement EOS and implement a structure that really helped us grow. My partner and I bought 2 companies, put them together to begin with, and in 3 years we doubled revenues. So that was kind of like the big step right there. And
All right.
so my motto is help first. There's my email. Shoot me an email, give me a call. If you're having issues and you're frustrated with your business, ask me a question. I'd love to help you.